Welcome to the Port City Plate Podcast, presented by the Enville Bites Food Tour. The Port City Plate Podcast, serving up the food, history, and people of Mobile, Alabama, for people who love the Port City. And I am your host, Chris Andrews. I'm super excited today. I've got ShaMyra Sylvester on the podcast. And ShaMyra, she owns the newest place in downtown Mobile. It's called Ginger and Spice, and it's a fresh, new, innovative. It's a juice bar. Also a vegan cafe located in downtown Mobile, right there beside the A&M Peanut Shop. I mean, when you talk about the heart of downtown Mobile, a lot of people say the heart of downtown Mobile. I mean, that literally is the center of downtown Mobile. So great location, and I mentioned juice bar, vegan cafe, and that really doesn't do what she does justice there. There's all kind of variety on her menu there, bowls and toast and wraps. So you can get a lot of food, but I'm super excited about this episode because she's promoting a health conscious lifestyle too, and I know that's not really something we've got into yet. So and I have to say before we get going, this is take 2 of this episode. So thank you again, ShaMyra, for joining the Port City Plate Podcast for the second time.
Of course.
So the first time, we had a little technical difficulties on that first run, but I think we've got things figured out now, and we've got my buddy Jordan from Outside Chief Legal allowing us to borrow his office today. So I had to shout him out there too.
Thank
you. Appreciate that. But ShaMyra, thanks for coming on. And so just tell us a little about, how you grew up, where you grew up at, and what your childhood was like.
Well, thanks for having me. I would say that it's quite an intro. Hearing you say all those cool things, it makes me take a step back and be like, that is me. I guess I am doing it right. So yes, I hail to you from Maysville, the historic district of Maysville. I'm from Mobile. I grew up here, born and raised. I went to Woodcock Elementary School. I went to May Eanes Middle School, and I went to Williamson High School. So I'm a true inner city kid.
True Mobile.
Oh yeah, all the way through and through. But yeah, I grew up in Maysville. One of those side of towns that, in my opinion, and I guess I'd say, definitely statistically too, is underserved. And so my journey into health came from scarcity. A lot of my family members and just individuals in my community suffer from some type of chronic related disease or chronic illness or diet related disease. And so I wanted to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do for myself, so that wouldn't be my narrative. But growing up, I definitely was eating and being fed what we could afford, and that just wasn't the picture perfect meal that society says we should be eating. And unfortunately, that's the narrative for a lot of food insecure areas, and Mobile has a lot of areas that are food insecure. And so I just wanted to take back my health.
Yeah. So it's like eating from things at the dollar store, right?
Absolutely.
Like TV dinners.
Preservatives.
Yeah, stuff like that.
If it was a preservative, I ate it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking hot dogs, microwavable dinners, canned goods, all of the things that isn't grown from the earth. Right. Now, not to say that I didn't eat vegetables and things like that. My family was still conscious of, a nutritional diet. It's just, it was mixed in with a lot of pork and different things like that. Southern food, Southern flavor. Yeah. Sometimes that can overbear the things that we should be doing. So that's kind of just how it was.
So what was the kind of the light bulb moment for you when you realized that you need to change your lifestyle when it comes to your eating and your diet?
Okay, so after I ate like trash in college too, I definitely did. I guess I'd say after I graduated from the University of Alabama back in 2013, I moved to Atlanta. And while I was living in Atlanta, obviously bigger city, more resources, so many different types of people, which means you're introduced to different types of lifestyles and backgrounds. And so I just remember kind of hanging out and being with friends and seeing them just make more conscious health decisions. I actually remember one of my friends being like, why are you eating corn and potato salad in the same meal? And I was like, I want to. And she was like, well, I'm not trying to be funny, but that stuff kind of breaks down to sugar, which is how people get diabetes. And I think it was like being around people who are more health conscious really shed light on, okay, so this is why everyone back home is sick, because they don't know this information, in addition to not having access to the appropriate resources to do something different. But it definitely took me matriculating through college, moving away, and being exposed to bigger city things, people, places, food options. And that's when I kind of started to be like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't eat rice and mashed potatoes with gravy.
Every meal.
Every meal. Yeah.
Even though it's good.
Even though it was good, you know, moderation, everything in moderation.
Yeah.
But what I know for sure is that a lot of chronic illnesses and diet-related diseases come from a lack of knowledge. And a lack of knowledge is a derivative of lack of resources. It's all a chain reaction.
Right.
It's all a chain reaction.
Before we get going on your story about Ginger and Spice and your journey that got there, you mentioned something on the first time we recorded. I want to make sure that you got a shout out to your time at Williamson.
Yes. Okay.
And how you got to the University of Alabama.
Backtrack.
So let's talk about that, because I think a lot of our listeners are going to be interested to hear that story.
Okay. So, you know, being from the area of town that I'm from, a lot of people in that community are surviving and not necessarily thriving. And again, that's because of a lack of resources. You only can do as much as you see. You only can be as much as you've witnessed around you. And so while I was in high school, I remember we were getting ready to graduate, probably I'd say maybe 4 months before graduation, and which is already kind of late. But I remember having a conversation with my dance teacher at the time, Lisa Kelly, who is definitely one of those people in my life who set me on a better path to success, I say, most definitely. So shout out to Lisa Kelly. You know, I love you, girl. But she asked me, she said, well, ShaMyra, like, what college are you going to go to? And I said, I'm just going to go to Pensacola Junior College. And she was like, no, you're too smart for that. You need to go to college. And she was like, you can even try out for the dance team. And so I was like, okay. And this was the conversation that she was having with all of us on the dance team. And so I really honestly think that because of her insight and her interest in our lives beyond high school, it has a lot to do with why a lot of the girls that I dance with have become doctors and lawyers and all of the other things. But she pushed me out of the nest and said, go to college. Do not just, go to junior college, which there's nothing wrong with going to junior college. But Lisa Kelly was my teacher for years, so she obviously knew my potential. And so she saw something in me that no one else around me was having a conversation with me about college. My mom didn't talk to me about college. It was more of like, whatever you want to do, I'll support you. And so I ended up going to Miles College, and I was a dual enrollment. I did I went to Miles. I was enrolled at Stanford for Air Force ROTC, because I thought that if I just go to the military, then I'll be all right in life, which, yeah, I didn't like PT. I didn't like getting up there early in the morning. So eventually I was like, yeah, that's not going to be my thing. But was at Miles. I studied communications while I was there. And I just remember being so enthusiastic about what I was doing, which is always how I've been. If I'm in it, I'm in it, okay?
100%, right.
I'm all the way in. And so I remember I started a communications club at Miles, and my advisor, who was also really excited about it, was like, we're going to get the students involved, blah, blah, blah. So I made shirts. I did the thing. And all of the other students and just my colleagues in general that were in the communications department were like, boo, we don't want to do that. And so I was like, oh, I hate it here. And so I went to my advisor's office, like, just smoke blowing from my ears, like, why is no one participating? And she was like, honestly, ShaMyra, I think that you are ahead of your time. And I think that what you really need, we don't have that to offer here. And so I said, so what do I do? and she was like, well, the University of Alabama has a great communications program. She had graduated from there, and she was like, I think you'll do great at Alabama. And so this was spring semester. Summer, I was a student at UA. I was enrolled and fully submerged into the programs and offerings at the University of Alabama. So shout out to Reese Weifer, because that's my building, and so many great opportunities, so many great resources, including better food options.
Right.
Most definitely. And it was all systems go from there. I did some really cool things at Alabama. I was a part of a cohort that was for individuals who were interested in the film industry, but you couldn't have any film background. It was called Documenting Justice. So I applied for that and got in and did a documentary about Reasonable Doubt, and it got critiqued by some LA critics, and then we did the release at the Alabama Theater. So at this point, I remember standing in front of a large room of people and introducing the film that I had worked on, and as I'm looking out into the crowd, I was like, whoa, I can really do anything I want to do. I didn't really know that, because that wasn't a conversation that was being had. It wasn't a hey ShaMyra, like whatever you want to be, you can do that. I believe that my caretakers believed that, and of course if it was something that I wanted to do, like dance, my parents were all in, like we'll pay for your uniform, we'll be at the games, but essentially it was like, whatever you want to do, I mean, we're just going to support you. So that didn't give me I can do anything I want to do. It was just more of like, okay, this is what's trending right now. You know, dance is if you're from Mobile and you're a woman, you have a relationship with dance, cheerleading, some type of performing arts, because Mobile is a very performing arts heavy city. But I remember looking out into the crowd and being like, all of these people are here for me in my film. Like, what? And so ever since then, I keep, even now, having a juice bar, like what? I never saw myself seriously being a business owner in downtown Mobile, because it wasn't a conversation. I didn't even know it was a possibility.
Right.
It kind of just happened. Like, so as I'm kind of just like navigating through life, I keep having these moments of, whoa, you did this.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. So yeah.
I'm with you. I have some of those moments all the time myself too.
Yeah, and I love that, and I appreciate platforms like this where you can share your story, because that's how you kind of change the direction of people who don't necessarily know that there's someone who looks like you or is the same gender as you or come from the same background as you, and they're really doing the thing, which means you can do the thing.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, you just have to take a step out and do it sometimes. I know there's a lot of people probably that think I should be the last person that to be having a podcast or, you know, owning a business. And this, people I went to school with. You're right. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
That was not the path I was taking at that time.
No. But if you ask some of the people that I went to high school with, I think they'll be like, "This is actually pretty typical of you, ShaMyra."
Yeah.
So,
you see these little trends that you had in your personality. Yeah. That now they're starting to shine through.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's kind of how it goes. You know, either your exterior environment nurtures you as an individual, or you're going to self-nurture, because the gifts that you have, they have to come out in some type of way. So that's kind of just how it all came about. Yeah. Honestly.
So let's talk about what events led you to opening up Ginger and Spice downtown.
Okay, so graduated from the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, in 2013. I got my degree in public relations, and I had a minor in advertising. Now, follow me. So, I think this was the first year that the UA had the new school opportunity, which basically, like, you can create your own major at the UA, because at this point, I think, like, the understanding of entrepreneurship coming online, new age career options, and all of these things were starting to come online. And so it basically was an opportunity to really create whatever it is that you want to be. We have the mechanisms for you to learn what you need to learn so you can create what path you want to go down. So I had this idea of focusing on, actually I did a double major. No, a major and a double minor. My major was public relations, and I minored in advertising and psychology because I wanted to do the psychology of advertising and sales. That was my focus. And I remember talking to my advisor about it. And I was also kind of inquiring about like broadcast journalism, because obviously in public relations, you're going to have to talk whether you want to or not. And so I was like, okay, well, if I got to talk, I want to talk how I want to talk. And that's going to be through radio or television. And I had a conversation with her, and she said, your accent is too country to be in broadcast journalism. And so I was like, whatever, but okay, I guess I'll just do something else. And that's kind of how I started thinking about the concept of the psychology of advertising. And it's so funny because as I moved throughout my career, I ended up being the radio voice for the U.S. Department of Energy radio station, and scientists and top data analysts for like liquid natural gas, coal, oil, even international agencies would have to listen to my voice every morning.
Your country voice.
My country southern voice every morning. So, you can't let anyone box you in.
Right.
If I had been one of those individuals to tuck my tail when things get hard, or someone told me that I couldn't do something, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you right now. So that's just a little message within itself. But as I graduated from the University of Alabama in 2013, I moved to Atlanta. I was doing some interning for different PR firms. I was working little in and out jobs, just kind of trying to find myself and what I wanted to do, right? And so I was meeting so many different types of people. I was engaging with so many different types of food until I realized that, okay, I really like food. I kind of started like a food blog type of thing. This is when Instagram kind of like first came out. So I was like posting pictures of my food and tagging the place and like talking about what I liked on the menu. So I've always had a very intricate relationship with food. But I was in Atlanta, and I remember saying to myself, okay, you've conjured up a large following of people that really like admire you and look to what you have to say about anything. It can be fashion, it can be hair, it can be any type of topic or industry. Like people would just be like, well, what do you think, ShaMyra? And so am I realizing that I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to grad school. So I enrolled at Troy University for a master's degree in strategic communications. And while I was in school, I had to do an internship for my grad program. And I started looking outside of Atlanta because at this point I'm like, I moved away from home. You know, my family was the most financially stable family, but I've been able to take care of myself this far. So I was like, I think I can go a little bit further.
Yeah.
So I moved to DC, kind of couch surfed a little bit, and connected with some friends from Alabama, and really got exposed to a lot of different other things in life. You know, of course, food is one of the major things, but networking and really just being able to ask for what I want, because essentially that's what you're doing. If you're looking for an internship, you're asking to be an intern, and here's what I can offer. And so I was like, all right, if I'm getting these internships in Atlanta, I know I can get an internship in DC. So I ended up in DC in 2015 while I was in grad school, and I was working for, my first job was with a mortgage loan firm. And so I became a mortgage loan officer, and I was like licensed in 5 states. And the owner of the company asked me something about home ownership, I guess because I'm in this younger millennial generation at the time. And so he's like, why don't millennials really care about buying a home? And so my response was, well, I don't know about millennials in general, but I know about the black ones, okay? And home ownership is kind of intimidating. And he was like, well, so what do you need to know to make the process less intimidating? And so I'm just calling out stuff. There needs to be more emphasis on new home buyers programs. There needs to be more emphasis on millennials that are financially conscious, that are even interested in becoming more thoughtful about their finances. So I'm just naming stuff, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna put you over that market. You're gonna be the marketing person to reel in these types of people because they'll listen to you. And that was another one of those moments where I was like, okay, so the owner of the mortgage loan officer situation company is asking me to be over marketing for obviously people that I can closely identify with. Something's happening here. Like, I must be able to rally a community of people because obviously he sees that people listen to me, right?
Right.
And so I started sending out these emails and telling like all of my friends, like, buying a house is not that hard, guys. Like, if you do this, and this, then you'll be fine. And so I started noticing that a lot of my friends started buying homes. I ended up buying a home in DC. And so I was like, okay, people listen to me. I'm gonna move on to the next thing because I did not want to be a mortgage loan officer. Okay, it was just I moved here and this job came about. It's just another piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So I left that job because I had got a job with Hilton Worldwide in Tysons Corner, Virginia, which is the worldwide agency for Hilton hotel chain. And so I was over leadership and employee development. So basically I was the head of internal training and culture. So we would generate the internal culture of the employees because obviously, you know, being more intentional about the culture inside of your job creates higher morale for the employees and different things like that. And so I loved my job. Okay. I loved my job so much that when I had a new opportunity to leave, I did not want to leave. But I ended up getting a new opportunity, which was a fellowship with the White House, merely because I went on a cruise with one of my friends for her birthday, and we were sitting in the muster station. And so I saw these two cute little black girls with like their little Afro puffs or whatever, and they were just playing. And so the mom was sitting on the side of me, and I said, they're so beautiful. You know, is this their first cruise? Because I didn't go on no cruise when I was that little. Like, that was not a thing. And so I'm just admiring the opportunities that they have as little girls to be able to travel, you know, abroad or whatever. And so I was just talking to their mom, and she was like, well, where are you from? And I was like, I'm from Mobile. And she was like, oh, I know Mobile. She was like, well, do you still live there? And I was like, no, I live in DC. And so she was like, I live in DC too. And I was like, wow, okay, well, maybe we can connect when we get back home or whatever. So we exchanged numbers, and she asked me, like, you know, what do you do in DC? And I was like, oh, I work for Hilton Worldwide, but I was just a contractor at the time. And so she was like, okay, that's great. She was like, what do you want to do ultimately with your career? And I was like, I mean, I have these degrees. I'm kind of just trying to figure it out. I think I was like 25, 26 at the time. Great job, but being a contractor isn't the most promising thing. You have to have a long-term plan, right?
Yeah. So
she said, well, send me your resume. I can look at it, and then we can talk. So I got back to DC, and I was like, hey girl, remember me from the cruise? I sent you my resume, and I would love to connect with you and talk more about it. And so she was like, I see that you're in grad school. There's this fellowship from the White House that I was a part of. And she was like, I think you'll be a perfect candidate for it. She said the application closes at midnight tonight. So call me when you get this message, and I'm going to help you apply. And so I'm like, okay, let's get it. I'm ready. So she walked me through the application, and very extensive. It was very extensive. Like, I think I submitted the application at 11:58 p.m. Yes. And so I submitted the application and just kind of kept moving about my life or whatever. And probably like, I'd say a month and a half later, she called me at like 5 in the morning and was like, you got it. And I was like, I got what? And she was like, the fellowship, you're a finalist. And I was like, oh my God. This is another one of those moments when I was like, what? Yeah. I can do anything. Now, I'm little black girl from Maysville. Now I just got this very prestigious opportunity from the White House. And so even with the fellowship, it's called the Presidential Management Fellowship. Very high regarded fellowship with the White House, right? So I kind of just like looked into the fellowship just to see some statistics of, who's actually being selected for this fellowship. The people that are typically selected for this fellowship are from Ivy League schools, Georgetown, Yale, Harvard. And here I am from the UA, which is a great school, but it's just not in that top ranked schools of the people that are typically selected for this fellowship. Not only that, probably about 5 to 10% of the individuals selected for this fellowship are Black. And so I was like, okay, obviously, this was very competitive, more competitive than I had even thought. I guess I must have said something right or did something right, and I got it. So I had to leave my job with Hilton Worldwide, and I was sad when I told my team, but I had to leave like in a week. It wasn't like a 2-week notice type of thing. It was okay, guys, got to go. gotta go get my background and fingerprints and all that kind of stuff done. And so my team was like, no, we don't want you to leave. But they gave me like this really nice lunch and sent me on my way. And my team lead at the time was like, you are amazing and I wish you the best. Now, again, it was one of those moments where I was like, dang, like people really, really love me. Like people really see that, okay, you're doing something. You're doing something with yourself and it's noticeable. And again, it's those kind of moments stand out to me even now because it just wasn't a part of my upbringing. It was go to school, make good grades, go, as long as you make good grades and you're cute and you're pretty and you're quiet and you'll be fine. We didn't really talk much about like being an ambitious woman or moving away and figuring out whatever it is that you need to figure out. So I ended up at the White House, and shout out to Sabrina, who it's so interesting how we met in a cruise muster station, and now she has gone from my mentor to one of my really, really, really close friends.
That's great. So you also in contact today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's my sister. We talk all the time. She's definitely going to be listening to this podcast. So you just never know. Whatever's supposed to happen is definitely going to happen. But even with all of that, I still didn't realize that the magnitude of your destiny being realized was as broad and serious as it is, because even with all of that, me being at the White House, I worked for the U.S. Department of Energy. I worked on Michelle Obama's Council of Women and Girls of Color in STEM. So I worked with the Diversity and Inclusion department in the DOE for years. I was there for about 5 years. I still kind of was just like, just working my job, My mom called me one day and was like, so you work at the White House, can I get a tour? And this is when President Obama was in the White House. And so I was like, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really asked about that. And so I asked one of the staffers, like, can we get tours for our family? And she was like, duh. Of course. I was like, I haven't even had a tour of the White House. Not a guided tour. I was walking around there. It was work.
Right.
I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, I'm in the White House. Hey, Michelle, we're in a meeting. Like Tina Chin, like all of the staff. I wasn't looking at it as like, I actually really work with these people. It was just more of like, this is just my job. You know? Yeah. And so my mom said, I want to have a tour of the White House. So we did the East Wing tour, which is more of like the generic tour. And so one of my colleagues was like, you can get your mom a West Wing tour, right? And I was like, did not know that. Even though I pass by the Oval Office like every day, like I'm in the Situation Room, see it all the time. Yeah. Like I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, this is the thing. So I told my mom, and she was like, what? So I flew her back to DC, and then I had to work that day. So she had her own tour without me of the West Wing, and she was like, I saw so many people, like she was just naming all the people that she saw, and I'm like, yeah, I see those people every day. But I think that's when my mom was like, you know what? I raised a very brilliant little
proud of you,
girl.
right?
She was like, whoa, like, you just make a call and I'm at a tour of the White House. And I've seen the whole thing at this point. I took her to like the rooftop where we do the happy hours and all that kind of stuff. And you can see the whole DC. It was awesome. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And when COVID came online, and I remember them telling me that we'd be in quarantine for 30 days. And so it was like, it all happened so fast. Like, my manager came into my office and said, take your laptop home. We're going into quarantine. It'll be about 30 days. Make sure you take your laptop because we won't be able to get back in the building. And so I think like the first 10 days, I was working from home. Everything in DC was at a halt. Very quiet, very boring, I hated it. It was like, I don't know, it was just, you going from high volume, riding the train, I'm riding the bus to work, meeting up with my friends after work for happy hour and all these things, and it just all came to a stop. And so I remember like looking on social media and I'm like, oh, in the South, it's still moving down there.
Yep.
The South is still flowing, like everything's okay. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a flight and I'm gonna go quarantine with my family for the rest of the 30 days or whatever. Well, I've been here ever since.
Is that right?
I've been here ever since.
Didn't go back.
It did not go how I planned for it to go. So coming down here, and I remember the first thing I did was I searched for juice bar on Yelp, and the only thing came up was like tropical smoothie, Smoothie King, Soul Bowls, and like Foy. And so I was like, okay, well, these are not juice bars, like,
right.
So apparently Mobile doesn't have a juice bar. And so I kind of just started associating with the lack of healthy options to the reason why everyone is taking pills.
Yeah.
Literally everyone's taking a pill for inflammation, hypertension, insulin for diabetes, and all these things because there's no relationship with healthy food options. And obviously, as I was kind of like navigating my career in this major city, the priority of community health in larger cities is very intentional. In DC, there's a juice bar on every corner, which is how I kind of got my start into being super intentional about my health because I lived in Anacostia, which is southeast DC, which is a very black side of town because that's the only thing I could afford. Okay.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and I remember people being like, "It's so dangerous over there," and I was like, "Well, I mean, I'm from Maysville, so I think I probably know what's going on over here." So I didn't feel in danger. I felt at home. And I mean, people are scared of what they don't know, and so that's kind of just where that narrative came from, and I think it's still prevalent today.
Yeah.
And so I ended up kind of just like, when I moved over there, I was like, let me just walk around and see what's going on. And as I'm walking around, people are like, hey, how you doing? How are you? And stopping and talking to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm from Mobile. And they're like, well, if you need anything, we're here. You don't have to feel like you're not at home or you don't have anybody because you're miles away from home. And I was like, so this is what everybody's saying is so dangerous. Now, don't get me wrong. Okay, there was
sure,
it's major city, South Side, you know how that goes. Some of that was going on, but I didn't feel like I was gonna lose my life. But as I'm exploring this side of town, I walked into this juice bar, which I didn't even know it was a juice bar. It had a really cool mural on the building of just like some little black kids playing in plants. Like someone had painted this beautiful mural, and I was like, I'm gonna go in here and see what this is about. So I walked in, and the owner of the juice bar was inside, and I was like, what is this place? And she was like, well, it's a cold pressed juice bar. We have smoothies, we got some plant-based burgers and all these other things. And so I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I got a smoothie and a juice, and I remember going back home and I felt great. I felt absolutely amazing, and I was like, I'm gonna go back tomorrow. And I just kept going back. And as I'm going in there, I started building a relationship with the owner, and I asked her, I said, why did you, what made you start this juice bar? And so she was like, my mom had cancer and she passed away, but while she was ill, I was doing research about like how to kind of bring her health back online. And so she was just kind of talking about the power of plants, like fruits and vegetables. And so I was like, Well, that's probably what's happening back at home. Like, we don't have anything there like that. And so I went to my group chat of my friends from Williamson, who were all still really good friends now, and I was like, hey guys, we need to open a smoothie shop or something, like a coffee shop or something, and have like juice and smoothies. And it was just a thought. Like, I just put it in the group chat and kept moving. I never in a million years thought that was gonna come to fruition. But like I said, when I came back here for COVID and I was looking for healthier options, which is what I usually indulge in, and I didn't see it here, I started just like making juice for myself. And then my mom was like trying it, and so she was like, get up, wake up, it's time to make some juice. And I'm like, okay. So now this is becoming like work, and so I'm like, I'm just juicing, because it was for me and my mom. Then it went from me, my mom, my niece and nephew, then my niece, my mom, niece and nephew, sister, and my mom's best friend and her best friend, and the ladies down at the church. And it just kind of started evolving. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should just rent like a commissary, like a separate place where I'm not doing this out of my mom's kitchen. So I rented a space on Catherine Street. That was my first place. It was pickup, and then I was doing delivery.
Okay.
And I was like, this is just gonna be like a little side hustle. I'm not gonna, do it too serious. Not gonna take it too serious, because I'm going back to work in DC. Okay. And so at this point, quarantine went from 30 days to 6 months, and I'm like, okay, clearly, I don't think this is gonna be wrapping up anytime soon. And the numbers of people with COVID kept growing, and I'm just like slanging juice. Like, if you drink this juice, it's gonna build your immune system. I'm telling people about the benefits, obviously educating them. And while I'm growing my little side hustle at the time, I'm researching. I'm reading about health and nutrition over and over and over and over again, because my family's sick.
Yeah.
My family, a lot of my family at this point, they're like, if you know about juicing and you're drinking this juice and it's making us feel better, you have to know something. And so I'm also like, I'm a data analyst by trade. I don't want to tell anyone anything that I'm not sure of. So I just started diving into, how does diabetes actually work? How does hypertension actually work? What are the deficiencies? What's the cause? And so I'm just having conversations. And then I took I got like a certification in nutrition, because again, I don't want to just be saying things. Like, I want to have the education to back it up. And so it just kept growing. And now that I think about it, I took a vegan cooking class in Jamaica. Just totally random. Like, I've traveled, I've been to so many places, which has a lot to do with the menu. I've been to over 35 countries. And while I was in Jamaica, obviously I was on my own health journey. And so I kind of looked up like cooking classes, because whenever I travel, I take a cooking class. And Jamaica is one of those places that's nutrient and like tropical fruits, vegetation, natural superfoods that are very healing. And so I was like, I want to know more about this stuff. So I took a vegan cooking class, and I didn't know that was connected to my story. I just randomly did it. And so it all kind of just comes together so beautifully. Very odd, if you will. But I didn't have any intention of moving back. I didn't have any intention of starting a health-based business here in my hometown. That was not on my radar. It just unfolded, because from juicing out of the Catherine Street location and creating a website, because I was so tired of people texting and calling my phone about juice. I was like, okay, maybe if I build a website, like, I can just funnel everything through there, right? And so that business model started to really outgrow itself very fast. So I was like, okay, I've got to get more juice out to the people in a way that supersedes my website. So I started doing pop-ups. I was doing pop-ups at Mission Fitness. Allison, which is a really good friend of mine, is the owner. And my first pop-up was with her holiday market. And she asked me about it because she knows that I was selling juice on the side. And she was like, you should just do the pop-up. And I was like, I've never done a pop-up before. I mean, okay, I'll do it. Just tell me what I need to do. And so I was getting connected to people there, and some of the people there were like, I've ordered juice from you online before, and they were like, it's great to see you out and about. And so that kind of expanded the customer base, and more people started asking me to do pop-ups. I was the pop-up, okay?
Yeah.
I was
That's right, you do it all.
I was popping up everywhere. I was selling juice from the website. I was just juicing. At this point, I had started like taking off work because my juice business was requiring so much of me, and I had all of this PTO because we couldn't go anywhere during COVID, so I was just piling up PTO.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me, the use or lose situation was starting to happen, and so I was like, okay, I have all this time, let me just take some time off.
That's a great idea.
And I was kind of trying to get ahead of the business while I was taking off from work. And then I remember being like, okay, if you're having to take off for work for your side hustle, maybe it's time to explore that a little bit more. And so I ended up leaving my job on my birthday in 2021. And I was doing Ginger and Spice full time. And I just was like, okay, I'm tired. I need some employees. And so I got some family members to help me start juicing. And then the opportunity to move into the space at Dolphin Street came about. But even before that, I was doing pop-ups, but I also built a relationship with Lacey and Will at Dropout Bakery. And then it was so organic. It was so easy. I didn't even realize what was happening. Like, me and Lacey had talked about them having a juice option, and I was like, well, I'm about burnt out from doing pop-ups, so I would love to just have a fridge here inside of the bakery. And so we made the partnership and collaboration announcement online. And so I'd say for about 4 months, I was stocking the fridge at Dropout Bakery every week. And I'm so grateful for them taking a chance out on me, but I know that they did because they love the product, And so they were like, this is the perfect merger, like juice and fresh baked goods, duh. Right. It makes sense. Yeah. And so during our time there, we just kept growing more. I was doing pop-ups. I had the fridge at the bakery. I also was still doing online orders. So I ended up hiring some employees to help me. But then one of my good friends who is related to my partner called and said, the hot dog shop in downtown Mobile is up for rent, and I think it'll be the perfect location for Ginger and Spice. And so I bugged the hell out of Buzz Jordan. I sent him a pitch deck. I called him over and over and over again. He will tell you this. I dropped some juice off at his office, and I was like, the location is mine. I don't care what you say. It's mine. And so he called me, and he was like, Miss Sylvester, you bugged the hell out of me in the most elegant way. I have to give you the space. So, I'd love to have you as a tenant. And we're going on, tomorrow will be our 3-month anniversary in downtown Mobile.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so all of this stuff just unfolded in the most seamless way. It's been beautiful. I'm just kind of starting to wrap my head around the fact that I live here, even though I own a house in Oakley. I bought my house in Oakley at the same time I had my house in DC, because I was like, obviously I'm going to be traveling back and forth more than I did before I had been coming down here. This was me convincing myself, like, ShaMyra, you live back in Mobile, it's okay, sis. But I'm still kind of just like, well, I'll say that I'm in the space now where I'm like, you are a resident of Mobile, Alabama. Right. You own a business in Mobile, Alabama. Your business is on Dolphin Street, in the heart of downtown. We're not going to let you leave now. We are all the way. We're here. So it's been great.
When you say cold pressed juices, what is that specifically?
Okay, so there are 3 types of juicers. There's a centrifugal juicer, which uses electricity to grind the fruit. That juicer, it's a good beginner juicer, but the electricity used to spin the blade creates heat, which doesn't keep the full integrity of the minerals of the produce. But it's a good beginner juicer. It's the juicer that I started with when I was in DC, and I was just juicing for myself. The next juicer, I'd say the next level up, is a masticating juicer. So it uses a spinning grinder that is slow. It's a slow masticating type of juicer, which I'd say it keeps about maybe probably about 60 to 70% of the integrity of the produce. It's a slower process, which doesn't include heat. So that's why some of the minerals are still there. But it's not as intentional as a cold press juicer, which the first chamber of the cold press juicer acts as your mouth. And then it goes into a second chamber, which is where it's pressed with a hydraulic press. And then the juice is extracted from the third chamber. That juicer keeps about 90 to 95% of the integrity of the produce. So drinking a cold pressed juice from Ginger and Spice is equivalent to actually eating the produce.
Okay.
So each one of our juices, which is in a 12-ounce bottle, has about 2 pounds of produce in it. So when people start to say, look, why is it so expensive? First of all, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It also has so much produce in it, more than you get in a salad. Sans the ranch dressing, the cheese, the all the things that make a salad unhealthy. You're getting all of that in one drink of a 12-ounce juice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what about the rest of your menu? I know how did the research go into creating some of the juices and?
Okay. In full transparency, so I got the space on Dolphin Street, and then I started submitting documents for the health department, right? And so they started looking into Ginger and Spice, right? And so they were like, you are wholesaling your cold pressed juice, and you're not supposed to do that. So they flagged my fridge at Dropout Bakery, which is fine. I mean, it actually, you never know what's good or bad.
Yep.
It definitely opened up opportunity for more things. With that being said, it put a little fire under me to speed it up, okay? And so I ended up applying for the permit for cold pressed juice. At least that's what I thought I did. I actually applied for the wrong license. I ended up getting the license that says you can have food and juice. Okay. And so the health department told me to send them my menu with our food options because they need to know what type of food we're going to be selling. And so I was like, food? Well, I'm just selling juice. And so they were like, no, you got the permit, you paid for the permit to sell food, so you can sell food. And I was like, okay, let's do this. If this is what, at this point, I'm thinking about how my life has just unfolded in all these ways. I'm like, this was supposed to happen.
Right, yeah.
So
that's definitely a blessing in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise. So everything on the menu is literally what I make for myself. Okay. So I was like, if I have the permit to make food, what am I going to sell? And I was like, okay, well, duh, you make a vegan wrap for yourself all the time. Okay, you make toast for yourself all the time with, both sweet and savory. I'm like, all right, I can sell. I know people like this because whenever I cook, if my family or my friends get a hint that I am cooking, they're knocking down the door.
Is that right?
Yes. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to put on the menu the stuff that I make for myself. And I went through this phase of eating raw because I was like, how often do we actually consume raw fruits and vegetables? When it's very limited. It's not happening a lot. So I went through this phase of eating raw, maybe like 1 or 2 days out the week. And so I kind of did some market research into like what is missing around here. And raw cafes are prominent in bigger cities. And so I also was like, if I'm dealing with raw produce, I don't really want to cook anything. I want people to change their relationship with raw fruits and vegetables, And so that's kind of how the menu unfolded. Literally everything on the menu is what I was making for myself.
That's cool.
Yep.
And what about I know you got some really creative names as well. Like yes. how did you combine some of the creative names that you have?
Okay.
Tell us a story about some of the food menu items.
So I'll start with the name of Ginger and Spice because it's all related. So Ginger and Spice came about because in my research into health, I followed a lot of practices by Black medicine doctors, I'd say, like Dr. Sebi, and different other health leaders as such. And so I kind of started looking at the alkaline diet and some of the superfoods that are listed in. If you're trying to heal yourself, this is what you need to eat, basically. And so ginger is one of those roots that I love the taste. It's deeply woven into my ancestry, and it also can take a plain, boring cocktail or drink, mocktail, and up the ante. And so I love ginger. I want to be ginger. If I could, I'd be ginger. I even dyed my hair ginger, and people thought my name was Ginger. With my business being Ginger and Spice, like I even have people that call me Ginger.
They still call you that.
And I just say, hey, huh? Yes. Hey, Ginger, huh? But so that's where the ginger part came in at. So spice, again, I've been to over 35 countries, and typically whenever I travel, I look for a more local experience. And so I've been to Africa so many times. I've gone to Dubai. I've been to Haiti. And one thing that a majority of the countries that I've been to all have in common is food. And with food, it's spices. And so whenever, like I said earlier, whenever I travel, I take a cooking class, and I'm exposed to all of these different types of spices, which made me kind of like look into the origin of spices. And I remember when I learned that herbs are spices, it's just dried. I was like, oh, okay, well that's cool. And so then I started like looking into the history of spices, and so many things connected to my ancestry, even down into slavery, like slavery in all forms, because it wasn't just slavery in Africa. That's just a part of humanity at this point. But it all started with spices, like trading spices, which was the currency at the time. And so ginger and spice was my ode to reclaiming my narrative as a Black woman. And I know that ginger and spices will heal you for sure. And when I say spices, I'm talking about herbs, because a lot of our juices have herbs in it. You know, even when you get sick, I remember my grandmother, which I just found this out maybe like 3 years ago, retired from a plant nursery. And so I've always had a green thumb. I don't know where it came from. My mom she has so many plants around the house. And so I kind of just slowly started like propagating plants and learning about plants and gardening. And I had an herb garden when I was in DC and all of these different things. So it kind of goes back to how my story has always been my story. It's just now I'm piecing together the puzzle. But ginger and spice came about because I was just exploring my health. And when it came time for me to brand the juices that I was selling, I was like, with all of this knowledge that I have collected over my travels and over my research just into my own heritage, I came up with the name Ginger and Spice. And so I love it.
I like it.
It's so fun. It makes health intriguing.
Yeah.
It's not like the healthiest food store. Like that can be very intimidating. When people see the word health, they're like,
that's right,
it's nasty. Or I don't want to take that. But
when you say it can heal you, what do you mean specifically, as far as if you have that diet consistently, or if you just put it in your diet occasionally?
Both.
You think, okay,
both. There are some herbs that if you cut yourself and you grab a piece of aloe and put it on there, it will immediately start the healing process. The same as if you are having digestive issues and you drink aloe vera water, it will start to repair your gut. So there's an immediate benefit from intaking fresh fruits and vegetables, herbs, any type of root, burdock, ginger, ginseng, lemongrass, all the things. There is a very immediate benefit. However, a sustained benefit comes from continuous ingestion, making your health a priority. remember the first time that I had, like I said, the cold pressed juice in a smoothie from Turning Natural in DC, and I immediately saw the benefits. So it's real.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in real time so many times. I went backpacking through Nicaragua a few years ago, and I was on a hike, a very high elevated hike, and I slipped and I slid down. It was like a mudslide. I didn't go too far, but I slid and I cut my arm. And the tour guide picked a leaf off of a tree and put it on my cut, and he said, leave it there for the rest of the hike. By the time the hike was over, I think it was a 2-hour hike. By the time the hike was over, my skin had already sealed.
Wow.
And that typically doesn't happen. Like, you have to have on a Band-Aid, and you don't start to see a scabbing process probably for like 3 days minimum. But it had already stopped the bleeding and kind of started to form the platelets back where it like sealed the cut. And so that's how I know, like, if you put that inside of your body, it's doing something.
Yeah.
It's doing something for sure.
So if somebody comes down to Ginger and Spice for the first time,
yes,
what do you recommend that they get? First time, if they're just
okay.
if they're not on they're not on a health conscious lifestyle, and they're coming by, what do you recommend?
So the first thing I would recommend is a latte. We have 2 superfood lattes. One is named Chocolate City after my beloved DC,
okay,
which is the nickname for DC, and then the other one is Mo Money Mo Matcha, which is my interest in matcha, which is very trendy right now. Matcha has a lot of natural caffeine because it's made from green tea leaves, and people typically associate matcha with high energy for work, which is why a lot of people drink coffee before going into work. So I just figured, drink some matcha, you'll make more money because you're focused. That's the correlation behind that. But
all right, I'll have to remember that.
Yes. So our lattes are made from superfood powders, which it's just, matcha is a powder. It's ground up tea leaves. And then our Chocolate City, which is like an elevated hot chocolate. It's a very dope experience. It's my favorite.
Okay.
It's made from raw cacao. It has some sea salt in it. Both of them have gourmet adaptogens, which are mushrooms that are good for stamina, brain focus. And when I say mushrooms, I'm talking like lion's mane, reishi, all of those types of things right there. So get a latte for sure, because I don't know of any other cafe, and I could be wrong, but I don't know of any other cafe in Mobile that offers a superfood latte.
Yeah,
I think
and certainly downtown Mobile.
Yep, we're the only one.
Yeah.
Because if we weren't, I would be going somewhere else to get a superfood latte. If that makes sense. So definitely gotta try latte. So good. We use a natural sweetener, local honey. We work with a bee pollinator out of Sims. Our honey is delicious, and we use coconut palm sugar, which is a healthier alternative sugar. Very natural. It's made from coconuts.
Okay.
So definitely a latte. I would say you gotta try juice, of course. We've got some strong juices for the strong juice drinkers, okay? We've got Money Trees, which is named after Kendrick Lamar's song Money Trees, but it has spinach, kale, cilantro, cucumber, lemon, it has ginger. It's got a few other ingredients, but it's one of those stronger green juices.
Okay.
But I figure the names of the products are just like affirmations. So you drink a Money Trees, I'm manifesting some money into your life. You take it. There's no wealth without health, so you take care of your health. You see what I'm going with this?
Good point. Yeah.
So we got some stronger juice options. Typically, all of our juices are kind of named after either a rap, hip hop, or just music reference. Some of them are affirmation based, so like our juice Energy, which is inner INNER-G, like energy, but energy, inner goddess, inner god. It's named after that because it really kind of just connects you back to yourself. You are drinking this juice called Energy because you're connected with your innermost self. You're reconnecting with yourself. You're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's a manifestation within itself. It is going to give you some natural energy anyway because it's pineapple, orange, it has lemon, it has apple, it has turmeric and ginger in it. And it's just a beautiful tropical experience.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So good. I have a juice called the Marathon Continues, which is named after Nipsey Hussle, out of Crenshaw on West Coast. It's a blue juice. It has pineapple, lemon, lime, apple, blue spirulina. So good, sweet and tart at the same time.
That's in a nod to the Clotilda, right?
Yes. So our smoothie bowls, we have the Barracoon, we have the Clotilda, and then we have the Kazula. And so those are references to Africatown. Obviously, my heritage in regards to the last slave ship that was ported in throughout the port of Africatown. It's just the ode to my ancestors.
Yeah.
And the fresh fruit that goes on top of the smoothie bowls are phenomenal. It's just, again, paying homage to my heritage and our connection with the earth and the land, and vegetation and fruits. And so it's also an opportunity to explain to people what it is, because a lot of people are like, can I get the back? I don't know how to say it.
And you can't say that without telling the story.
I can't tell them how to enunciate it without expressing what it means.
Right.
So our smoothie bowl options are so good. I actually didn't like smoothie bowls. I only put it on there because it's healthy and people like it. But I actually made myself one when I first opened, and I've been eating them ever since. So I get it. I get why people love it. It's delicious. It's a sweet treat that's healthy. Let's see. We got some smoothies. One of our smoothies, Nefertiti, which is my connection to Queen Nefertiti. I went to Egypt a few years ago and learned so much about Nefertiti, Pharaoh. My pendant that I have on, I wear it every day, which is Nefertiti. I got it in Africa. I watched the goldsmith carve it out of a piece of gold.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was cool. It took a long time. I was sitting there for a while watching it, but I got it from Egypt. And they tested it in front of you and everything. So Nefertiti is a queen that she really had to stand her own ground. She was very supportive of Pharaoh, and so it's just one of those things where it's like, girl, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Drink this smoothie. This smoothie is named after a woman who did it. And then Mansa Musa is one of our other smoothies that's really good. Mansa Musa was known to be one of the richest black men on earth. Even now, he still be the richest person ever.
Okay.
To walk the earth. I'm sure there are many others, but he's like one of the main people that is talked about. And so it's just kind of, again, an ode to my heritage.
Yeah.
And connecting my community back to health, because African Americans in the South are the highest percentage of individuals who have a chronic illness or a diet-related disease. And obviously, ginger and spices for everybody. I want everybody to be healthy, because if everyone in our community is healthy, we have, and this is just me being honest, we have less violence, we have higher educated students, we have a more loving aura towards one another, healthier businesses, cities thriving. And so that's why I created Ginger and Spice. I just want everybody to get healthier.
I love that.
Because if we don't, we're going to watch our city dwindle.
Yeah.
And even just from being from here, moving away for all these years and coming back and seeing that some of the same things are going on, some infrastructure is still the same, still a lot of dilapidated buildings, vacant spaces, minority businesses not doing good. It all goes back to health.
Yeah.
Everything's connected to health. Even down into, as I'm doing research about what I'm actually pursuing, which I continuously do research all the time, I remember reading about food insecurity and how a lot of children are being disciplined and chastised at school because of misbehavior, but their misbehavior is connected to them being hungry. You can't focus at school if you're hungry. You can't focus at school if you just had noodles for breakfast.
Yeah.
And so if I can capture the attention of the parents, then the child benefits. And when I am working at the juice bar and a mom comes in and the baby's like, I want a smoothie, or I want a smoothie bowl, or they reach in and grab a juice, it brightens my heart because I wasn't able to do that. I didn't have those resources. And so Ginger and Spice for me is not about money. My business is not about money. My business is about the health, the vitality, and the sustainability of our community.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's health for everyone, not just health for people who can afford it and who have these certain resources on their side of town. It's for everybody. Come here. Everybody's connected to downtown. And I just want people to know that we're a resource. You know, if you're dealing with something, and I'm not anti-medicine. If you need to take medicine, please take your medicine. But I do believe that a lot of times medicine is prescribed to treat the symptom and not the issue.
That's right. Change your diet first and see what happens.
If you change your, I don't care if you've been diagnosed with cancer. If you remove dairy from your diet, if you stop eating pork, if you stop eating meat, give your digestive system a break, your body will start to heal itself. And that's just that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What do you see for what's your long-term vision? I mean, you talk about there's juice bars on every corner in DC. What do you see for Mobile's scene? You know, as far as how do you see Ginger and Spice playing a role in that?
Okay, so the future of Ginger and Spice looks like a community garden that everyone's involved with, that everyone can benefit from. We're already outgrowing the space that we're in.
Yeah.
So our long-term plan is kind of becoming a short-term plan. I want dine-in seating. I want people to be able to come in, sit down, vibe, talk. Like, we've got to get back connected to a healthy dining experience. And when I say health, I'm not just talking about what's being served on a plate. I'm talking about disconnecting from electronics and talking to the person in front of you, dining over a good farm-to-table experience, you know. I want to be able to offer that with good little music in the background. I want to connect my customer base with nutritionists that they can identify with, whether that's ethnically, spiritually, research-based, all of the things. Someone who can address all areas of interest when it comes to health. I definitely want to have a healthier option in the form of Ginger and Spice out in West Mobile. I definitely could see that. But I'm a very unconventional thinker. I'm very creative when it comes to anything that I'm working with. So it may not look like a storefront. It may look like a juice truck,
right,
or a shipping container entity where you can walk up and our building is made out of a shipping container.
Yeah.
You can sit out in the courtyard with the umbrella over your head. Like, I've got so many ideas for Ginger and Spice that I know is going to come into fruition because it's already started. I actually looked at my business plan, my original business plan the other day, because we're getting into a space where more money, more expansion. And so as I'm looking at the business plan, I'm like, yeah, I did all of this. So I got to start over. We got to start from scratch here. So, but as far as the community, I want Ginger and Spice to be like a wellness house, total wellness, where we are connecting with yoga specialists, fitness specialists, and offering some type of monthly like yoga session or workout session. Again, we have an in-house nutritionist that we can talk about your diagnosis or your interest in preventative maintenance. Again, just total wellness. Like, if you're experiencing anything, even down to mental health, there's research that says individuals who are dealing with mental illnesses, their mental health is closely connected to their gut health. 9 times out of 10, someone who's struggling with their mental health has gut health issues. It's closely related.
Yeah.
And so I want people to understand that all illnesses start in the gut, and if you can heal your gut, you can heal your life.
Right.
But I want to be able to have these conversations in person. And even if it's not with me, I want my team to be educated where they can have these types of conversations. I want doctors included in the conversation because obviously a diagnosis comes from a doctor, and so the doctors that are interested in holistic medicinal practices, in addition to general practices, I want them involved. I just want our community to be healthier.
Yeah.
And I want ginger and spice in the forefront of it because I'm just tired of seeing people walking around with canes and they're not 80 and 90, they're 30. I know people that are having strokes and they're 30.
Yeah.
I know people that are diagnosed with diabetes or threatening diabetes, hypertension, all of these chronic illnesses, and they're in 20s and 30s, and that's wild.
Yeah. I agree. It's food related.
It's food related, and it goes back to food insecurity, and it goes back to a lack of knowledge. And if we can just address those things, the health of our community will benefit.
Yeah.
So I don't have to have a juice bar on every corner. I just want people to know that I need to go to Ginger and Spice.
Right.
I need to go down there and talk to Ginger and Spice and get on the right track. And not to say that we can do the work for the people, but I can give you the steps that you need to take to bring your body back online.
Right.
And that's the main thing.
I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
I do. I love it. I love your vision
I appreciate it.
for this too. I can't let you get out of here without moving on to our next segment, which is called Meet and Three.
Let's go.
Which is not appropriate to this episode. Meet and
Oh, that's
Three.
all right.
But we've got into the meat of the podcast, and so now I've got 3 questions that I want to ask.
Let's
you
go.
Before we get going. Sorry. So you said you traveled 35 countries.
Yeah.
What is a memorable food experience that you've had in your travels?
So
That's gonna be a tough one, I know.
it is, but I went to so at the beginning of 2020, I backpacked through Europe by myself. I went to Barcelona, I went to Greece, Athens, I went to Santorini, Greece, and I went to Rome, Italy. Barcelona was my first stop. I had signed up for a paella making class on Airbnb because they had the Airbnb experience.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was getting into, okay? We met up. I'm the only black person in the group, obviously. And so I'm meeting with all these people. Some of them speak English, some of them do not. And I swear, even today, I kind of feel like they're still my family. But we met at a market that is like a market that I have never seen before. They had fish that I've never seen, giant octopus. Like, it was just amazing. I was like, wow. They had black truffle that was worth like $15,000.
Wow.
They had everything that you wouldn't imagine when I say everything. So we met at the market. We sourced everything for the paella, which was slimy squid ink. Like, they literally, I watched them drain the squid ink from the squid into like a little glass jar and seal it and sell it to us. It was amazing.
Cool.
I was like, what? So we sourced the squid, we had the crayfish, the lobster, and we got everything from the market. Then we walked back to this kitchen, which was absolutely beautiful, with a communal table and this really large, it was like a wok, but it was like a Spanish wok. I don't know what they would call it, but it was huge. And so they had all these fresh spices like saffron, all these like Spanish spices that are too many to name. But they paired us in groups, and we literally made paella from scratch. Grains, olive oil. We cleaned the seafood that went into it. It was the most authentic, amazing experience that I've ever experienced, and the paella was chef's kiss. I actually tried to make it again, and it just was not hitting like the Barcelona paella. One, because the ingredients were not the same, but I raved about that paella for a good like 6 months. Like, even when I was complaining about COVID, I remember telling my mom, like, I was just in Barcelona making paella, and now we can't even leave the house. So
that's incredible.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was amazing. My mom was like, girl, you are always doing something. Like, I'm showing her the pictures and videos. You know what? Now that I think about it, the chef that led the class, she said, I was in charge of the spices, and so she facilitated the making of the paella. And so when it was time for me to drizzle the spices in, like Salt Bae, she said, she made a Spice Girl reference, and so she was like, if you were a Spice Girl, what would your Spice Girl name be? You know what I said?
Ginger Spice, gotta be.
I said Ginger. I said Ginger, and I was looking at my videos in my phone. Whenever I get into this vibe of I want to travel, I'll just go back and look at my old videos. So I was looking at it, and she was like, if you were a Spice Girl, what would your name be? And I said Ginger. And I was like,
that's
all
awesome.
of this stuff was already happening before it even came online, before it became a dream realized. Interesting.
That's cool.
Very interesting. Yep.
All right, my second question for you is, how was the food at the White House?
The food at the White House was very cafeteria.
Was it? Okay.
Blah. Like,
Really?
We had a cool salad
Because I
bar.
would imagine they would have some of the best chefs in the United States. I would imagine.
The president had
Yeah.
the best chef in the United States. The
But
president.
so y'all had a different chef than what the president has.
It was just, very. Okay, so technically, lunch. You don't eat at the White House. The White House is basically like an office. The building next to the White House, which is where the House of Representatives and all of that kind of stuff are like typically working out of, between there and like the Ronald Reagan building. But that's kind of where you go to eat.
Okay.
And that vibe is very
It's cafeteria.
Capitol Hill cafeteria.
Yeah,
vibe.
okay.
So salad bar, pizza, burger. It just depends on what's on the
I
menu.
gotcha.
But
So not that impressive.
no. Like I would leave for lunch and go through the very extensive process of getting back into the building.
Yeah.
But it was worth it because cafeteria.
All right, what about Mobile? What's some of your favorite restaurants in Mobile?
Noja is a really good restaurant that I enjoy when I just need to have a quiet meal and some good wine.
Yeah.
I love the kale salad and smoked tuna from Noble South. Dropout Bakery is gonna always stuff me with some type of innovative baked good that Lacey has dreamed up in her sleep. And I love that they make house calls, because I'll call them while I'm at the juice bar and be like, bring me something, I don't care what it is. And they'll need a chance to just get away from work. And so it's our opportunity to just love on each other and
That's cool.
eat really good baked goods. So I'll give them juice, they give me baked goods.
That's a good trade-off.
Yeah. Love Dropout Bakery. I like the Jamaican the jerk chicken plate from Roosters.
Yeah. Again,
With the
right
side of
next door to-
chimichurri.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Yeah.
That's good
I
stuff.
like front yard tacos.
Yeah, I like them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The steak and eggs, that's a good one.
I'll get the Brussels sprout bowl and I add chicken to it with mushrooms and grilled onions.
Okay, ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
Yep.
Remember that.
And they know me when I come.
Yeah.
They already know what I want. Yep. Yeah.
All right, my last segment is called Chris's Dishes.
Okay.
And this is where I talk about the best dish that I've had
All right.
lately. And you talk about the best dish you've had too.
Okay.
But the best dish that I've had was from the Royal Scam. And I went.
I have not been there.
You haven't been to the Royal Scam? Yeah,
I'm
you gotta go.
I'm gonna go this week. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta go. They've got. They've got one of the best steaks in Mobile, I think. But I got the red snapper.
Okay.
Is what I got. So that was like their special that they're having, and it was a sesame wonton crusted snapper. So it was a little, it had a little crust on top, but it had a lot of flavor. It was really good.
Drooling.
Yeah, it was good stuff. They had a wasabi couscous was the side.
What?
And it was pretty good. It was pretty good. If I go next time, I might sub out the side.
Right.
But I wanted to try that.
Yeah.
Like, that's something unique.
Oh, definitely.
That's not something
if
you
I
get to
saw
see.
that, I'll say, let me give it a go.
And they had grilled broccolini, which was
my favorite.
Yeah, very very good too. And they had a little wasabi sauce on the side. It was like a ginger soy aioli.
Okay.
And so all that it was really really good.
Okay, Royal Scam.
Yep, Royal Scam. You gotta go check
the
them out.
foodie in me is antennas are up. Okay, I have to go and check that out.
Yeah, you'll have to go to the Royals camp for sure. That's a good place to go for a good night. So what's the best dish you've had lately?
I'm actually tired of eating out right now, primarily because my life as an entrepreneur is go, and so it's eat out. But I get to a point where I'm just not interested in eating anything, and so I go on a rave of cooking. So I'd say a few days ago, we put some blue crab on the grill, squeezed some fresh lemon on there, some butter, made it like a little garlic butter sauce with white wine, and drizzled on there. We had broccolini. I love broccolini. We put broccolini on the grill and some potatoes. My boyfriend Jordan, he is... I really love grilling, and when we first started dating, he wasn't into grilling, but now he calls himself the pit master. Okay, and so whenever there's an opportunity to grill, we're on the grill. He's actually also a really, really, really integral part of Ginger and Spice. I would not be able to do all of the Ginger and Spice things that I do without him.
Right.
Sometimes
so you'll see him up there too.
Definitely. Okay. When my brain is not braining, his brain kicks in. And when our brain kicks in together, we do things like open a store on Dolphin Street, Mobile. So
I like it.
I would not be able to take on this task without him. He's picking up boxes. He's putting the boxes overhead because our storage is really small. He's crunching numbers with me. Right now, we're kind of wrapping up Q1 of being open, and so he's like, cash flow, let's go, get up, let's do it. I know you're tired, but come on. So I'm really, really grateful for him. And so when I go into this vibe of I don't want to eat out, he kicks in and is like, let's get on the grill. Because that's the time for us to unwind and talk about things that are not numbers, and we need to order some more bottles, or we need to get some more produce, or we need to so I love when he gets on the grill. I love cooking. I really enjoy cooking. So that meal with the blue crab on it, I had never had that before. That was his idea, and so I helped a little bit, but it was he was the chef that night, and phenomenal. The blue crab was amazing. Who'd ever think grilled blue crab?
That sounds great.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And I was just dabbing the broccolini in the little garlic butter mix and the potatoes. It was phenomenal. That was a very memorable meal that I didn't make much of it, but I enjoyed being catered to.
Yeah,
so
I like it.
Yep.
ShaMyra, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation and getting to know your story and your journey.
I can get a little long-winded.
It's been great.
It's been a long journey. It's so many pieces of the puzzle that I want to share, and I try my best to articulate. I know I can get a little long-winded, but it's such a special story.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared it. There's nothing that's too long when you've got good content. And your story has been great. Yeah.
Yes. And if I could just leave with if I could leave a note with the people, I would say that no matter your situation in regards to your health, you have the power to heal yourself. There is no ending when it comes to being diagnosed with anything. I believe that that's a fresh start. That means you have a fresh start. That means that you are in charge of the next phase. You are in charge of that. And that means being intentional about your health. What are you putting inside of your body? Because that's where you're going to get out of it. Take back your health. Take back your health. I think that capitalism has pushed us into a lifestyle of convenience, and that is what's causing our health to be at stake. But what we do know is that when we cook our own food, and when we take time to engage with our family, friends, or whomever in the kitchen, centered around food that is nourishing, we are reclaiming our health. We're reclaiming our health.
Yeah.
And that is how you get back to a state of wellness. Because it's not just eating foods without preservatives. It's not just being down and out because you have a new diagnosis. It's not just, oh, I need to get to the gym because I want to lose weight, because I want to look good. It's literally being intentional about putting things in your body that's going to give you life. From life comes life. And I really want people to understand that. I'm not perfect, you know. I don't subscribe to a particular way of eating. I don't say I'm a vegan or I'm a pescatarian. I eat what's necessary for me. I eat based on my blood type. And so, you know, getting into health can be a long, deep dive, but once you take that first step, you're on the way to being well. And not only well for you, but well from the people that are for the people that are connected to you. So hopefully that makes sense.
That's well said. I agree.
I tried to articulate it as I try my best not to use jargon, but wellness is so much deeper than a diagnosis or where you're eating. It's about being in control of your life.
Yeah. Well, it's been an inspiration for me, and I hope it'll be an inspiration for
Yes.
the people who are listening as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And before we go, also I would encourage everybody to go vote for the two of us in the nappies.
Yay!
You got to go vote in the nappies for the Porch City Plate podcast, of course, as the best local podcast.
The
but
best.
ShaMyra is up in the best minority-owned business, Ginger and Spice.
Thank you to everyone who nominated us, because I didn't even. I forgot about that part of being a business owner in Mobile.
Yep.
So I'm excited. I guess someone's seeing us out there.
That's right.
So please vote for us.
They're seeing you. They saw you on the front cover of Mobile Bay magazine this month too. So y'all got to go check that out too. She's the beautiful new summer cover. She's the cover girl on that.
Girl.
So you got to get your go get the Mobile Bay magazine with ShaMyra on it.
It's a beautiful spread.
It is a beautiful one.
I love it.
It was a good one. It turned out good.
Yeah.
And go vote for Beginville Bites Food Tour as the
Please.
best place to take out of towners in the city life category.
Okay.
So we got a few Nappy Award
That's awesome.
finalists.
You're
there
doing
y'all
great
gotta go
work.
vote for.
This
I appreciate it.
your work is very important
Yes, thank you.
because it's closely connected to mine. We
Yep.
are very aligned in
Yep.
getting the people
And I couldn't do this
what they
without
need.
good stories like you. So
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Awesome.
Thank y'all for listening to the Porch City Plate podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Spotify and anywhere you like podcasts. And I just really appreciate y'all listening. I know I ran into Brian the other night at Taco Mama, and he told me how much he was enjoying the Porch City Plate podcast. So
That's great.
I've enjoyed talking to everybody out in the community, and so y'all post your photos on the Porch City Plate Facebook group, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
And follow us online.
Yes.
We're at Ginger and Spice Life on Instagram and Facebook. We're at 209 Dolphin Street, Suite A, right next door to the peanut shop.
Yep, right
Everyone
there
knows
at
where
Beaver
the peanut
Square,
shop
right
is.
across from Beaver Square.
Yes, come
You
see
can't miss
us.
it.
You'll enjoy everything on our menu. There's nothing that you eat from our menu that you're going to be like, ooh, it's too healthy. It's delicious. So yeah, stay connected with us.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you, ShaMyra.
Bye!